This video is sponsored by my favorite website creator, Squarespace, the best place to go when you want to get a domain or create a gorgeous website or an online store. 17 years ago, I went vegan. Can you believe that? 17 years. And before that, I was vegetarian for 10 years. I tend to say that the 3 best decisions I've made in my life are choosing David, going vegan, and moving to London, in that order. Going vegan for me was never hard. It has never felt like a sacrifice. And it makes me honestly so deliciously happy in 2 different ways. First of all, physically, my body just feels wonderful compared to when I ate animal products. And second of all, mentally, knowing that I'm eating in a way that is non-violent, that reduces needless and horrific violence in this world, is a thing I do every day, every time I open the fridge or go to the food shop. That is an act of kindness and non-violence. Frankly, it just makes me feel good. But of course, the world was a very different place 17 years ago. I knew no other vegans, and there were no avotoast or barista soy milks. You were lucky if you could find a plain block of tofu in the food shop back then. And when I told people, I'm vegan, many of them frankly freaked out a bit. The reactions were quite often aggressive or very uninformed, and sometimes just outright bizarre. So I thought I'd make a little comparison then to now, the reaction you get as a vegan. Because believe me, after 17 years, I've heard it all. Kind of to see, is the world kinder, less judgmental to us vegans now after 15 years of veganism, becoming a trend? I've made a little very unscientific analysis, basically just based on my own personal experience of walking around being vegan, eating my lentils, and I've done my best to make 2 lists. One is of the 4 most common reactions I got to being vegan 17 years ago, and one list of the 4 most common reactions today as a vegan in London. And let me tell you, I had fun with this because I had forgotten just quite how bad it was. The by far #1 most common reaction back then was the "but where do you get your protein" reaction. Deficiencies. Non-vegans were obsessed with them back then. Protein was the main concern. In fact, people were so concerned with my diet's lack of protein that they quite forgot their own diet's lack of, more or less everything else. And I turned vegan strictly for ethical reasons, mostly for animal rights reasons, but also for the environment. And I myself thought this too, that I would get deficiencies and had to be very careful to get enough of, everything. So I was very surprised when, my body changed, not for the worse, but for the better. Of course, I'm careful to make sure that I get everything I need, just like anyone should be, no matter their diet. And I'm especially careful with B12, which is so important to vegans and seniors to supplement with. But anyway, protein. One study they did in the US, okay, granted this was some years ago, but that study showed that 3% of Americans have a protein deficiency, whereas 97% of Americans don't eat enough fiber. And we do know where fiber comes from, don't we? Okay, the second most common reaction to me going vegan back then was the "do you release minks from farms" type of reaction. The "do you go around blowing up slaughterhouses" type thing. Back in the 90s, so a long time before I went vegan, there was a movement of militant vegans doing these kind of things, breaking into mink farms and releasing minks. And there was a fear that all vegans by night, dress in balaclavas and bomber jackets and break into animal testing facilities. Now, I have personally never done either of these things. I take a gentler approach to veganism. In fact, my veganism is based on gentleness, of non-harm. Do I want to release minks? Yes, of course I do. I have visited mink farms and seen the conditions in those places. But I have decided that my own activism will be strictly gentle and focus more on the upsides of veganism rather than the horrors of animal husbandry. So I'd rather make delicious, healthy food videos than show you photos from the farms. If you want to see those photos, they are a simple internet search away. Okay, sorry about that. Let's lighten the mood now. The third most common reaction I got 17 years ago is such a strange one, but it was really making the rounds. And that's the "if you were stranded on a deserted island with a pig, wouldn't you eat the pig" question. Just what the hell? How is this relevant to anything at all? I mean, if I was starving on an island, I would eat a pig. I would eat a human too, I'm pretty sure. That survival instinct that overrides our morals and ethics. So yes, I don't know, but probably I would eat a pig if it was down to the pig or me, just from survival instinct kicking in. The thing is though, I'm not stranded on a deserted island, and neither are you. I'm living in a country where I can, walk into the closest food shop and buy food that allows me to live happily and healthily and deliciously and affordably without supporting the meat industry. I don't have to eat the pig, so I don't. My question is, why would you ever eat the pig if you don't have to? Like, there is a choice here to simply leave the pig alone and go eat a soy sausage, So this is actually one of the themes of my second novel, choosing to live a gentler and more non-violent life. Because my main character, Sikan, she's a gentle soul and someone who is sort of confused and appalled about how harsh the world is. So, simply a person who is too sensitive to handle cruelty. And although she's quite different from me, this character, this is one thing where I relate to her so much. This softness and sensitivity, which is the reason I'm vegan in the first place. Do you also relate to this feeling? I hope you will see yourself a little bit in Sikan if you do end up reading it, which would make me so ridiculously happy if you wanted to. I'll of course put links in the description with worldwide free shipping if you do want to get a copy, because guess what? This book is almost out in the world now. Just days left to go before I will see Sikan on the shelves in the bookshops. How mad is that? So thank you so much to everyone who has already pre-ordered a copy. It means the world to me, seriously, that you want to read my work. You're my favorite people. Okay, finally, another incredibly weird reaction, and really a little bit mean, was a type of reaction I used to get all the time back then, when I was a fresh, green-eyed, very new vegan. And that was the people around me tried to poke holes in this new ideology of mine, and especially trying to catch me in displaying non-vegan behaviors. When I went vegan, I had a leather bag that I used every day in university, and I got told so many times that I was a hypocrite for using a leather bag as a vegan, when, I just thought that since I bought this bag, I might as well make use of it. But no, pretty soon I gave it away because I was so called out on it. But it was just more and more of those things, do you use tea lights? Do you take medicines? What about makeup? And so on and so forth. And I was really quite criticized every time someone found something non-vegan that I did. At first, this really made me feel bad, like I was failing at veganism because I didn't know that some tea lights are made out of animal fat. But soon I just remember that, you know what? Is it better to be trying your best to be a vegan and sometimes failing, or to not try at all? Of course, it's better to not eat animals, but, sometimes take an ibuprofen tested on animals, than to go you know what? Nope, I can't do veganism perfectly, so I might as well eat all the animal products available in store. I'm a hypocrite. So are you. We all are. Better to try to be a better hypocrite than not trying at all. Nowadays, I'm happy to say that the world, at least the world I live in, has mellowed out when it comes to plant-based diets. In fact, to really illustrate how far we've come, let me compare the by far most common reaction back then to the by far most common reaction today. It used to be, where do you get your protein? But nowadays, when I say I'm vegan, the reaction is most often, oh, I eat very little meat myself nowadays. So as to assure me that they're also thinking about these things and trying to be conscious about what they're eating. Quite the difference from being skeptical or even aggressive to being aware that we should all cut down on animal products for a variety of reasons. Isn't that encouraging? The before reaction was one of, God, you're weird, stay away, to now wanting to find common ground and consensus that we should all care about farm animals and the environment and our health. I love this reaction. Even if this person might be eating just as much meat as the average person, just this reaction, the intention to eat less, is worth applause. A will to try and a will to be more conscious. Second most common reaction nowadays is probably, but I just like cheese too much to go vegan. And fair enough, I get that. I remember when I first went vegan living together with David in our first flat in this Swedish small town. We were vegetarian at the time, and I said, let's just go vegan. I mean, going around to dairy farms and egg farms and fish farms, etc., is quite easy to go vegan after that, I can assure you. But when I suggested we go vegan, David had that reaction, but I like some of the non-vegan things so much. So I asked him, which things? And it turned out to be 5 things he really enjoyed, like cheese on pizza, a certain type of ice cream, and so on. So he just kept eating those 5 things, but turned the rest of his diet plant-based. Hypocritical? Sure. Good for the planet and for his health and for our animal friends? Of course. So then one by one, he just stopped eating those 5 things too. And that's how David went vegan, gradually, comfortably. And so he's almost at 17 years too. And he, more than anyone, is happy about the vegan ice creams and vegan milk chocolates and the vegan burgers and vegan cheese pizzas. Or you should have seen the paltry selection of vegan substitutes that we had to choose from back then. Dramatic change to now. The third most common reaction nowadays is probably to try to make veganism sound and ethical. It's a sort of mental gymnastic that I find almost impressive to watch when it happens. The most common one used to be about avocados taking up so much fresh water to grow. But of course, I don't eat avocados almost at all, so that kind of killed that argument, I guess. And also, that argument died forever when reports on how much fresh water the animal industries are using came out. So I don't know the precise numbers of this or like how an avocado compares to meat, but maybe David can insert some graphs for us here to illustrate. Finally, my favorite reaction out of all of them, a reaction I never once got 17 years ago, but now gets so often and it always just delights me, is when I say I'm vegan and the response is, oh, me too. How lovely is that? There's quite a few of us around now, aren't there? But vegan or non-vegan, none of us are perfect, all of us are hypocrites. The only question is, do you want to be a hypocrite who at least tries or a hypocrite who does nothing? Of course, the answer to that is obvious, or it should be. And if we are trying, we should pat ourselves on the back. I mean, I'm constantly trying to live more ethically in many different ways. And I'm constantly failing too, like single-use plastics and buying from Amazon, even though I shouldn't. But yes, I'd rather be a hypocrite with good intentions than perfect at not trying at all. But enough about me. Where are you with all this? Vegan, non-vegan, vegan curious, past vegan, future vegan? Do share your thoughts. It's a complicated issue with a lot of tradition and familiarity playing in. So like always, there's absolutely no judgment from me. I used to eat meat. I wasn't born vegan. I remember how, the reasoning around that went. I do believe wholeheartedly that eating as much plant-based as possible is the right thing to do. So I hope that this can give a little motivation in that direction, especially by being kind to ourselves and remembering that this is not about perfection. This is about a well-meaning hypocrisy, doing something good, but without the pressure of perfection. I look forward to reading your comments on all this. And oh, don't forget to get your very own copy of What a Time to Be Alive if you want to spend some time with the sensitive soul Sickan in Stockholm. Honestly, I think you will like her because, well, me personally, I kind of love her. All right, thanks for today and hope to see you next week already. Now, do you want to create a stunning website or launch your own blog? Squarespace has you covered with its latest innovations. First up, let's talk about their new design intelligence. Combining 20 years of design expertise with cutting-edge AI, this tool helps you unlock your creative potential, building a personalized, one-of-a-kind website that fits your needs. Squarespace also makes running an online store easier with Squarespace Payments. Onboarding is fast and you can start accepting payments in just a few minutes. Plus, it supports various popular payment options like Klarna, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and others, giving your customers payment flexibility. And for seamless social media integration, Squarespace allows you to connect your social media accounts in just a few clicks, whether you're embedding a feed or syncing your products directly to Instagram or Facebook. It's an effortless way to expand your reach and keep everything in sync. So what are you waiting for? Go get your free trial today at squarespace.com. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/jennymasset to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Okay, thank you so much for watching today. Bye bye.